Very interesting.
We got two.
Oh, two. Wow.
One of the artists here, so I take him to a place.
What do we have? Morris.
I'm starving.
Can you put them up? I think if you come over here.
So.
Hi, Ann. How are you?
I'm good.
It's,
Especially late.
it's late there, huh?
It's very late, but I wanted to come on tonight to thank you because I have followed your study all last year, and I've been following the traditions on YouTube the next day. So
Well,
especially late tonight for this last one.
well, thank you. Maybe
Thank
one
you.
of these, maybe one of these days I'll get out to Ireland.
Maybe you'll be very welcome.
I started the recording already, so.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Okay.
Cute. How's your pass? Was your nose pierced? I like
Actually, Ann, I'm going to be in England on March 3rd. I'm going to England for 10 days.
Oh, is there
Stacy said.
Yeah, I'm
we're good till
going-
Monday.
I'm doing a convention on the 4th and then a workshop up in London. I'm going to be in Bournemouth on the 4th. Then Monday I'm going up to London. I got 3 workshops to do. Then I'm going down to Plymouth for another convention.
Oh,
Yeah. They're working me good there. Thank you.
How you doing, Dan?
How are you?
get their money's worth.
Yeah, they're getting their money's worth.
You're so sweet.
And where are you located in Ireland?
Oh.
The north coast. North coast.
Northwest coast?
Northeast.
Well, if they ever do a convention there, let me know. Hey, John.
I've heard of the Giant's Causeway Dam.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got as
I've
far
heard that.
north as Clifton.
Oh, yes, that's over on the west side.
Yes. Mhm.
We're northeast. Northeast.
North-
corner. Yeah.
Okay.
Clifton, the Republic of Ireland. We're the north of Ireland.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, it's an interesting story again.
You got the whole table to yourself there, John.
know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I like German too. I had a coworker. Not my John speaks German. Yeah.
So it's nice.
I'm Israeli.
I don't know where I am.
One,
Just regular old me.
Israeli, huh?
Just regular.
100%. I used to tell the kids all the time.
Hold the baby
Guilt
out
of
of
this,
the reach. Like.
All right, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started and get finished. Get started to get finished. All right. Thank you for being here. You guys are troopers that hung in. Has anybody got any questions on what we've covered, the first 10 traditions? Any questions at all? Nobody got a question? Okay. Well, let's go then to tradition 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And I believe today it also has social media in it. And the long form says, our relations with the general public should be characterized by personal anonymity. We think AA ought to avoid sensational advertising. Our names and pictures as AA members ought not be broadcast, filmed, or publicly printed. Our public relations should be guided by the principle of attraction rather than promotion. There is never need to praise ourselves. We feel it better to let our friends recommend us. And I think we touched on that last week when we talked about what they do at conventions, and they thank everybody in the committee one at a time, stand up, and personal recognition. We're not supposed to be praised. It's service gladly rendered. The other thing with that, the rule of thumb is that if it's in the newspaper or writing somewhere, you should never use your last name. And if it's on television or being filmed or recorded somewhere, you should never show your face. That's the rule. Now, I have been to a convention where the chairperson of the convention was interviewed in the newspaper, the local newspaper, with his picture and the whole convention thing there. And I was going, okay, who elected this guy to be the chairman? Oh, something wrong with that. But so the way I carry myself in and out of these rooms is the way I practice attraction rather than promotion. You've heard the saying before that I might be the only big book somebody ever sees, right? So one of the reasons that we emphasize, or I emphasize, and hopefully you guys will too, is to learn the traditions, is to keep this thing that we have alive. I mean, we were talking about it before the meeting, that all of the traditions have been telling us what not to do, right? Remember, if we did the triangle and the circle and the steps was action and the traditions was non-action, right? We don't want to do these things that are not good for our fellowship as a whole or our group as a whole, right? So what they're telling us in this tradition is that we don't want to get. So let's say you got somebody that's actually today I just posted a thing on my Facebook of Robert Downey Jr. giving a little speech about what's the guy that did he's always drunk and in trouble. What's
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson. Yeah.
I was going no.
You saw that? Yeah. It was a pretty cool speech that, how Mel Gibson helped him get sober and everything. And the only thing he asked today, help somebody else. And he said, and then Robert Downey Jr. said, little did he, I don't think he knew that he was the one that needed my help later. So, but you got a guy like Mel Gibson, so he's out in the spotlight, right? Well, if he starts talking about AA and AA and AA, and then he gets arrested, smashing up his car and running his car into somebody's house or something, that's a reflection on Alcoholics Anonymous. So we want to try to remain, most of us we don't have that problem of being so famous, but, we still don't want to get up and put our name on AA in the public. So it's kind of about like walk like you talk. Really, that's what we're saying here. Yes.
I read something in box 459 one time. People would send letters to GSO and ask for answers and stuff. And one was interesting talking about this tradition because there was a group that sent a letter to GSO saying, there is somebody in our meeting keeps saying their last name when they introduce themselves. And they are breaking the 11th tradition and we need to stop them.
No, they're not breaking it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we shouldn't be anonymous from each other. And that's what they said in the letter when they wrote it. And I found that very interesting. You know,
Well, let's talk about, and we're going to talk about anonymity more in the last tradition. But so I go to meetings where a lot of people introduce themselves with their first and their last name.
Mhm.
And the reason people started doing that many, many, many years ago was, you know, we didn't have the convenience of that we have today with technology and stuff. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of somebody, they knew who they were looking for. They knew their first and last name. And that was the purpose that these people did that for. I don't know if that's so necessary today, but I don't have a problem. I never use my last name, but I don't have a problem with anybody that does. You know, it's just my thing is I'm Danny and I'm an alcoholic, you know, and that's good enough for me. But so in the next tradition, we're going to talk more about that. But they're not breaking any tradition
Right.
by doing that, you know.
well, and in this response, they always quote Dr. Bob or Bill or something writing. And Dr. Bob had actually, in the response to them, had said that Dr. Bob felt you were breaking the 11th tradition if you didn't use your last name when you introduced yourself. Now, I don't use my last name.
I never heard that before.
Yeah, that's what I read in that box.
Yeah, I never heard
That
I
was
never
interesting.
heard that before. But yeah, I that one I never heard Dr. Bob say anything like that. But I think it's just somebody's preference. So here's the thing about sobriety. Sobriety should be attractive enough to a sick person that they would want what we have. And so how I carry myself, not just in an AA meeting, because it's easy to do that in AA, but how do I carry myself outside in the world, right? You know, when I go to a place, to the workers, here comes that son of a bitch in there, or they say, hey, that guy's a nice guy, you know, and I may go and I may go to a restaurant or something, but I never have a drink, you know. He's a nice guy. But he don't drink though. He never has a drink when he comes. You know, people start getting curious, right? You know, would you like to see the wine list? No, thanks. You know, I don't freak out when somebody asks me if I want a drink or I want to see them. You know, I just say no, no, thanks. If I'm at a party and somebody, would you like a cocktail? No, thanks. It's really simple. You know, some people just can't handle the thought of it. Then if that's your problem, there's something wrong with your sobriety. Because a simple no thanks is all it takes. You don't have to freak out because of that. But so my point is the way I carry myself attractive enough for a sick person to want what I have? No. And you know, if I know somebody's got problem with alcohol or drugs or something, you know, I may go up to them and talk to them. If I know them and I know what's going on in their life, you know, I may go up to them and I don't wait for people to just call me, you know, because that's going to rarely happen. So I might go up to them and I might say, how's it going, man? You know, you need some help? You know, there's a way out. You know, and bring up the subject. And again, bringing up the subject of getting sober or being a member of a 12-step program means nothing, absolutely nothing, if I don't carry myself well before that. So again, I can broach that subject with somebody that might have a problem because I try to carry myself as a gentleman wherever I go. You know, and I try to practice the principles that we learned in here everywhere I go. And so if if somebody's just an asshole, you know, they're broaching the subject with somebody who's quite different than somebody that's practicing these principles outside of the rooms, you know. So that's what we're talking about. So it's about being responsible, being patient, being tolerant, you know, and those kind of things, and walk like you talk, really. So let's see what. So the idea then, that they put this tradition for our groups was that they don't want our groups getting mixed up in uh big heads of media and television and film and all that kind of stuff. And that's, you know, that's not the place. That's not the place for us. It only strokes ego and does things like that. It doesn't help us as a whole. Yes.
What about like, I don't know if this is on the same type, the fraction, the judge, the nudge from the judge. Being sentenced to AA. You think about that, is that?
No, that's not against traditions. That's not AA. That's not AA sentencing you to meetings, our doors are open, and how you got here is really none of our business. How you got here. Your wife sent you, your boss sent you, the judge sent you, Mike? Uh-huh.
What has the group done lately to bring AA members into professional fishing or sport official educators and other often first it's been alcoholic health.
Yeah.
So if their court order,
Yeah.
we're in need of help.
Yeah, but that's just that sheet everybody has already. That's one of the ones we handed out. So you should have a copy of that.
I always thought it was kind of cool that anonymity, I thought, allowed somebody to come in here, see what it's about, and then leave if they want to. No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
They weren't fully exposed.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot of the whole last tradition is all about anonymity.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. But going back to what you said, Ken. So a judge sentences somebody to 90 meetings or 30 meetings and 30, whatever they sentence them to, whatever they tell them they have to do as part of their release. So they don't instead of locking you up, we're going to tell you go here. Well, I think most people are okay with that rather than go to jail. But again, that's none of our business. So again, the doors are open. How you walk in that door doesn't matter to us. It makes absolutely no difference if the judge sent you here, your wife, your boss, you decided yourself. It makes absolutely no difference. Everybody that walks in the door, the only question is, are you willing to go to any lengths to do this? You want what we have, and you're willing to go to any lengths to do this? We have a way out that really works. Do you want it? And that's all that matters. So, because I've met people over the years that we had a good, I don't know if it was before you came or not. Dennis, you remember Dennis? Tony's dad. Yeah. Well, he came to a meeting and brought his son to a meeting because his son needed the meeting. Nice guy. I sponsored him till the day he died. Not the son, the father. But the father didn't come to the meeting for himself. He came to the meeting for his son. You remember Dennis, Kenny? Dennis, little short Dennis. He ran the tire place downtown. Yeah, you would remember him. You see, he was around when you was around. And anyway, I sponsored him for years and years and years, and he needed AA. He didn't know it when he got there, though. So there's people that it doesn't matter how you get here. Some people, me personally, a judge could have gave me a paper and told me to go to AA. I would tell him go fuck himself. So I didn't get here till I was ready to get it. It didn't matter nothing before that. Nobody could have convinced me to come here or forced me to come here. I've been getting locked all my life. If you're gonna tell me you're gonna lock me up, I'll just tell you lock me up.
Somebody shared yesterday that they used to sign their own paper. Until the guy was ready to come himself, he just signed his own paper.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, many people sign their own paper. They sign different names. You know, they do it with their left hand, they do it with their right hand. Listen, we're the type of people that did all kinds of shit out there, forged this and that. You know, sign a meeting schedule paper is no big deal. Did you have a question?
Right.
I'm not saying that I disagree with the tradition of it. I'm not saying that, but I do think that like Steve-O from Jackass, he's sober. He's been sober for quite a while now.
Uh-huh.
And he did some crazy stuff being a part of that Jackass team. And really that showcased like alcoholism and drug addiction on a national scale. And he's now sober and he's very public about his affiliation to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Huh.
But I almost feel like that is a worthy exception of it because it shows that AA is far reaching and can help everyone. And he's been hugely like encouraging, not promotional, but just his involvement has made AA more attractive to maybe a population that would not have known about AA or would have felt comfortable in AA. And so, and I've seen him speak, he's got a beautiful story. It's amazing. He's still Steve-O. He is still who he is. But he's amazing. And he's been, I mean, services for sure, like what he's all about and stuff.
How long has he been sober?
He's been sober probably like 16 years at this point.
Yeah.
And I mean, he went off the grid when he first got sober and went to a halfway house in South Florida. And he's legit. He's legit AA sober. And he is a great example of what that is. And
Okay.
I think, yeah.
So we're gonna talk about that in the next tradition, because that's really the 12th tradition, not the 11th tradition. The 11th tradition is basically focused on radio, films, news.
That's
That-
what I'm saying. Like he's openly said that.
Yeah.
And
But that falls to anonymity.
Okay.
And so we'll go over that and go back to Steve-O when
Okay.
we start talking about anonymity.
Okay.
Because I don't want to answer that now because it's the next tradition. Okay. But I hear what you're saying, and I'll explain why that's okay when we start the next tradition. Because it actually is okay. But right now we're focusing on the group allowing outside media and stuff to for people or groups to tie their name to that, and they're saying it's not a good idea.
There was controversy about the fair booth. What do you think about that?
What happened with the fair booth? They had that's the PI committee. That's public information.
Oh, so that's okay.
Yes. That's going back to the 9th tradition. We allow different committees to be set up. One of the committees we have is the P&I committee. That's public information. And so how do we put our message out to the public? Well, we open a booth in the fair that has pamphlets and maybe even a meeting schedule and maybe even a copy of how it works or something like that for the public. Okay. And we're not promoting AA. We're trying to attract it to people that need it. So it's about carrying the message to those that aren't aware of the message. I shared with the guys before with me and we were talking that I don't even remember how old I was when I got sober, 32 or 33 years old. I never even heard of AA. My entire life, I never heard of AA. I never heard anybody talk about Alcoholics Anonymous. I had no clue it existed. Yeah. And I really didn't give a shit if it did exist. But when I got sober, it's the first time I heard of AA. When I went to the hospital at the beginning of my sobriety. So, November 21st, 1991 was the first time I ever heard of Alcoholics Anonymous.
There used to be commercials. on TV.
I remember, the only commercial I remember on TV was the frying pan and the egg.
Oh, no.
This is your brain, this is your brain on drugs, you know?
You don't remember the one with the nose?
No,
And they would come by and then it would go up the nose, the car and the money and all.
oh, yeah, was that AA?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Drugs are bad.
yeah, oh, okay, yeah.
Say no. Dare.
In England, they, it's no wonder it's a mess. Like they told me to go AA here. I was like, what the fuck do I want to go AA for? I didn't even know what it was. Well, over there, AA, I guess, had the first branding rights. Well, AA is the Automobile Association. Every car's got AA on it. You know, I didn't get it when they said
Yeah.
AA. I was like,
Right.
I guess I wasn't.
So that's the purpose of the PI committee, is how do we get our message out there to the public information, PI committee, and that's their job to do that kind of stuff. So that's perfectly okay under the 9th tradition. They're allowed to
They
operate like
have
that.
a big one. I hosted this thing, me and another guy called Seeds, for first offenders up in Edmond. And every Monday next to it, one of the Edmond groups had a short speaker and a thing, and you had to be signed in by 7 and with your court document, or you didn't get in.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They did public information.
Yeah.
Big meeting.
Yeah. All right. So let's see how we're talking about this in home and stuff. It's not so obvious, but for relationships, it will go like each partner best convey his or her belief and philosophy by attraction rather than promotion. Anonymity is a valuable asset to the marriage or relationship. So one of the questions, the first question is, have you been guilty of promotion instead of attraction by your living the program? So how you acting at home? That's really what it's asking you. You know, how you, let's say you're married and your spouse has got a drinking or a drug problem, right? And you're already sober. How is your patience? How is your tolerance? How is your love at home with your partner? Well, that's what this is speaking about. You get it? This is what this is speaking about at home in your relationship. The love and the caring and the tolerance. You'll come in here and give that to a complete stranger, but you won't go home and give it to your partner. Shame on you.
Well, I mean, even if your partner is perfect and amazing all the time, they get on your nerves.
Yeah,
You
you
still
still
have
have
to
to
Yeah, but no, we're not talking about an amazing, perfect partner. We're talking about an alcoholic or a drug addict that's progressively getting worse, and you're already sober. And the question then is, how are you carrying yourself to promote this program by attraction? Rather than
have to promote it all the time.
well,
I
I used the wrong word, promoting. How are you presenting this program through attraction rather than promoting? Yeah,
Right.
through your behavior, so again, if you can give a complete stranger love and tolerance and patience and kindness because they come into the rooms of AA, why can't you do that at home to your partner? It's very hard. It's very hard. Yeah, it's very hard. Granted, it's very hard, but you know, that's why following this relationship tradition stuff is going to improve your life, because it's hitting you with these questions that are going to make you answer and make you think to yourself, you know, hey, I just spent a half an hour talking to this person I never met before, trying, you know, after the meeting. I was kind, I was patient, I was tolerant. I walk in the house, he got that look on his face. I'm automatically screaming and yelling and being nasty. You know, what's up with that? So again, your personal recovery, is it attractive to a sick person? That sick person might be your spouse. we're not defining who the sick person is. We're just asking you, is your personal recovery attractive enough to somebody that's sick to make them want to seek help? That's what this is telling you to do. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Right?
and these are personal, there could be your children.
Could be
This
your
could be
children
your
too, absolutely.
siblings, Your
Could-
parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could be anybody, your immediate family, your extended family, good close friend that you've had for 30 years, you know.
And our sister or Al-Anon as well, because it's so intrinsically tied to alcohol. That you can be tarnishing.
Yeah,
that-
absolutely.
that portion.
Absolutely. So,
They're one.
you know what? About, I want to say about 26 or 27 years ago, I mistakenly walked into a speaker meeting, didn't know it was an Al-Anon meeting, thought it was an AA meeting. And I sat down and the person, you know, started talking and I realized, oh shit, this is a freaking Al-Anon meeting. I was just a few years sober, you know, maybe 4 or 5 years sober. I didn't want to get up. It was everybody looking at me walk out on the speaker, you know. So I sat there. And I'm gonna tell you something. That was probably 27 years ago. I still remember one thing that lady said that night. You know what she said that I still remember? She said, I learned here that you don't have to change for me to be okay. Powerful shit. I went, oh, that was good. Worked the whole night to be there. You don't have to change for me to be okay. That's what the Al-Anon lady shared. Powerful stuff. All right. So, look at number 2 here. It says, are you able to go about your daily living without giving your partner advice or information, without instructions on how to use the information? Like expect them to know what they're supposed to do?
Read mine.
So what, and here's another question. What happens usually when you are trying to promote something? Yeah. And when your promotion isn't working, people like us usually try harder. You know, we're gonna make that square fit in the circle. You know, all I gotta do is press harder and it'll get in there, you know. No. That's why we don't promote. But if I carry myself in a way that is attractive to a sick person, they might say to me, you know, what do you do when you get angry? Or what do you do when somebody says this to you and you just want to hit them? Or, you know, they might say something to me. And what they're saying to me is, help me, please. I see you handle this good in life. I can't. I need your help. But we don't hear that. We rarely hear that.
I think this is very difficult for me with my child. This is really, really hard.
Nobody said it was easy.
Yeah,
I'm not.
But I'm just saying, like, that's
Yeah.
the hard part for me.
Yeah, I'm not standing up here telling you how easy it
Yeah.
is. I'm just standing up here telling you how you should act.
Absolutely.
You know, and even with your son, especially with your son, if you practice kindness and love and patience and tolerance and all of the principles that we promote in here, if you practice that on a regular, consistent basis, consistency is the main thing. That you know, may that help him someday? Maybe.
Yeah.
We don't know. But it'll that's my point. It'll help
There's a
you.
balance. There's a balance.
There's a balance, but consistency is very important. All right. Anybody got any questions on this here? Okay. So, how was I looking at before? All right.
Dan,
Yes.
this tradition is so important. Al-Anon is,
What did Al-Anon put on it?
we need to guard with special care then. OAA.
Yeah, that's a good one. Good sentence. Okay. Tradition 12. So in tradition 11, I said, walk like you talk. And tradition 12, I'm gonna tell you, don't talk, do. Tradition 11, walk like you talk. Tradition 12, don't talk, do. Okay? Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. And well, let me read you the long form. And it says, and finally, we of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the principle of anonymity has an immense spiritual significance. It reminds us that we are to place principles before personalities, that we are actually to practice a genuine humility. This to the end that our great blessings may never spoil us, that we shall forever live in thankful contemplation of Him who presides over us all. Okay. And I want to read the first paragraph in Tradition 12. It says, the spiritual substance of anonymity is sacrifice. We're going to get back to that. That's a very important sentence. Because AA's 12 traditions repeatedly ask us to give up personal desires for the common good. We realize that the sacrificial spirit, well symbolized by anonymity, is the foundation of them all. It is AA's proved willingness to make these sacrifices that gives people their high confidence in our future. So, he says the spiritual substance of anonymity is sacrifice. What are we talking about here? First, let's address what we're talking about with that celebrity person. Okay, so everybody in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, every member of Alcoholics Anonymous has the right to break their own anonymity. Nobody in Alcoholics Anonymous has the right to break somebody else's anonymity. So, I can say, we could be out in a restaurant and I can tell a table of people that aren't members of AA, I go to AA, but I can't say, if I'm with Terry, I can't say, so does Terry. So each member has the right to break their anonymity. So when a celebrity person gets up there on TV and talking about their, most of them, if you listen carefully, most of them do not say Alcoholics Anonymous. Most of them will say 12-step program, which is not breaking any anonymity. So if you listen carefully to them, I've been, I was telling somebody, I think I was telling you last week, I was in a convention years ago and I was the speaker. And they give you these badges to wear. And I don't like wearing this thing because it says speaker on it and everybody wants to stop me and talk to you. So I don't wear my badge. And I got in the elevator to come down to the lobby. And there was a guy in the elevator and he didn't have his badge on either. I didn't know that he was part of AA and part of the convention. But the reason he didn't have his badge on, he was a very famous person. But I didn't know who he was. So I didn't even think he was part of it. Was the we were talking about it last week, right? Well, he's the lead singer for Metallica. Which I'm a Sinatra guy, so I have no idea but he was sober and he was there for the convention. And when the doors opened, there was people waiting for the elevator and they saw him and they screamed and I okay. And I walked on by and they kind of people were up his butt the whole weekend, which is not good. And then when I spoke at the banquet that night afterwards, he came up to me and said, I didn't know who you were in the elevator. I said, don't feel bad. I didn't know who you were. Yeah, he loved it. Yeah, I didn't have a clue who he was, but neither one of us had our badges on, him because he was famous and me because I was the speaker. So we didn't have badges on, so we didn't say nothing to each other the whole way down in the elevator. But yeah, so he was there, And I've been to meetings and conventions with lots of celebrities over the years. I mean, lots and lots of them. And each of them I know speaks publicly about their recovery. But I can't think of one that uses AA in their verbiage. 12-step program.
Did Lisa Minnelli do it that time on the Johnny Carson show?
Well, she was probably loaded if she did.
No, she came out. She was like us when you get sober.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
She
on
was
fire.
like, damn, this is the best thing, Johnny. I've never felt better. And she was looking.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, front page. Lisa Minnelli
Yeah.
drunk off her ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so does that guy, does he say AA?
Does, I think, I've never seen, like, not on like Jackass or like the cable TV, but on, he has his own like podcast thing.
Uh-huh.
And he does talk about AA specifically.
Yeah.
And he was trying to help another member of Jackass who has been in and out, and made a total ass of himself for years and years and years.
Not on the show.
On his own, but he has his own like podcast, and he's very like, I'm an A.
It's great.
Yeah.
And I think it's also good, me personally, for the younger generation, including my kids, to see, because, you know, they look up to the wrong people now with all the technology and the music and what it talks about. And I feel as though they start looking up to the people on social media instead of their parents, even if their parents are good examples. And so to see them start transitioning more, and I even noticed, and I don't know if it's just because I'm looking, that more and more people that are famous are trying a more sober lifestyle. And I don't know if just because I'm paying attention to it, but it is attractive. And I think it's really attractive to younger kids.
Yeah. But like I know, I don't know this person you're talking about, but all the people that I've seen over the years, I can't recall any of them talking about AA. You know, there's a guy from my neighborhood. But you're probably too young to know, but you older folks in there will know who Dion and the Belmonts were. Dion DiMucci from my neighborhood. Actually, I was born and raised on Arthur Avenue, which is Little Italy in the Bronx, and the next street over is Belmont Avenue, and that's where they took their name from. They used to hang around on the corner when they were kids singing on the corner on Belmont Avenue. So Dion is the lead singer, Dion and the Belmont. Well, he's over 50 years sober, and he is a total big book thumper, and he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you know. So there's lots of guys, and he talks about AA all the time, but publicly always says 12-step program.
And there's ways they can, you don't have to come out and say it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I mean, there's ways they can all around it, like I've heard actors say a group will help me or something, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, so.
Yeah. Most of them just say 12-step program.
That's the best way. So
Yeah.
you do them big.
I had one of them really, really famous guys at me, probably one of the biggest stars in the world. But he deserves to be able to come in here and just be a regular member to a meeting.
Yeah. I was in a meeting with Anthony Hopkins one time, and a guy came in to meet and asked him for his autograph.
No way.
Well, this thing, I didn't say anything, I left it to last.
Yeah.
But there was some people in there, and it's all around town.
Yeah.
Half an hour they're on.
Anthony Hopkins told this guy, I'm when I'm in here, I'm just a drunk.
That's good.
He's another good big book guy, Anthony Hopkins. You know, but he wouldn't give the guy autograph. He said, I'm nobody but a drunk in here.
That's good.
Uh,
It takes away from the meeting. You're not focused on.
He's been sober many years also.
I have to ignore things. I figured they appreciate that. Give space. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, there's a meeting in Hollywood that at the studios that the people that work in the industry go to because they don't know each other anyway, you know.
Judges.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that earlier on the traditions, why that's allowed.
Well, and I also think that people can lose their jobs. Like certain people that have certain jobs, it can really cause them harm if they are exposed to what they, changes in their lifestyle.
Yes, and that's why I'm reading this here, says newcomers should be able to seek help with comfort, complete assurance, that their identities will not be disclosed to anyone outside the fellowship. The concept of personal anonymity has a spiritual significance. It discourages the drive for personal recognition, power, prestige, or profit. These would impair the effectiveness in working with others. So the spiritual substance of anonymity is sacrifice, right? That's what the book said. The spiritual substance of anonymity is sacrifice. What does that mean? So I sponsored a guy for a long time, Brian. Remember Brian Jack? And he always would talk about himself in a meeting. So I says to him, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go do something really good for somebody that you remember that you don't like. Find somebody that you don't like. And I know you got a lot of people you don't like, and do something kind for them anonymously. And don't tell nobody. Can you do that? He said, sure, I can do that. And he went out and did something really nice for somebody that he didn't like. And he came back to the meeting that night and he told everybody about what he did. And I was sitting right there and I was going, oh, fuck.
Oh, what I said.
Yeah. That's
He said,
because
am I supposed to tell you know?
yeah, he said that I'm not supposed to tell everybody, but I need the pat on the back, you know. Yeah. So now anonymity, you have to understand this too now. Anonymity does not apply to somebody that's drinking or using. Somebody that's drinking or using doesn't have any anonymity. Mike?
That's called breaking the law.
Not necessarily. They could be in a bar drinking. But somebody, let's say somebody's in the rooms 5 years sober, and they go out and get loaded. And then two people are talking about that person. You know, that's not, and then somebody will say, oh, don't break his anonymity. He don't have any anonymity. Anonymity is not for a drunk or a drug addict. It's for a recovering member in the fellowship.
But isn't that gossip?
That's another whole story. But yes, that's absolutely gossip. You know, it goes back to the rules. Don't have a conversation about a third person that isn't present. But what we're talking about here is people thinking that you have anonymity when you're not sober. Anonymity is for members of Alcoholics Anonymous that come to meetings. Anonymity is not for somebody in the bar getting loaded. They have no anonymity. So you're not breaking any anonymity. You are gossiping. Absolutely. So when I said tradition 11, walk like you talk, tradition 12, don't talk, do. What am I meaning by that? Don't talk, do. I mean, do this deal. Do these things and stop trying to take credit for it. Sacrifice. The spiritual substance of anonymity is sacrifice. Remember that. The spiritual substance of anonymity is sacrifice. So if I could do a kind act, if I could do something right, if I could do a good thing without looking for a reward, without patting myself on the back, without telling anybody about it, just do a good thing because it's a good thing to do. There's no reward for that, right? So I don't talk, I do. That was my catchphrase for this. Don't talk, do. Just do it. Just do the right thing. Just do something anonymously for someone. When I say anonymously, I mean, don't go to the meeting that night and tell everybody what a kind of great thing you did for somebody. Be anonymous about it. Don't let that person know you did it. That's difficult for people like us because we want the recognition, right? We want everybody to know how good of a thing we just did. When I got sober, one of the things I realized was that I had robbed my whole life. I never had a job in my life when I got sober. And I realized that I had robbed and stole my entire life. And couldn't, if you asked me to write down who I did what to, I couldn't even begin to tell you my victims. My victims were in the thousands. In the thousands. You know, I mean, we literally, you know, you know that chip they have in credit cards? That's because of a case we had where we were forging credit cards. And we were making the credit. And after that case, they came out with a chip in the credit cards. And that's the truth. That we were making those credit cards. So thousands and tens of thousands of people got hurt from that. You know. So my whole life I robbed and I stole and I did bad things. I don't know how I'm going to make amends to these people. So for the first 10, 12 years that I was sober, I would do continuous anonymous donations to people and organizations and places. I'm not going to tell you who I gave what to, but I can tell you that I gave away a whole lot of money. A whole lot of money. Because if I were able to do that for another 50 or 60 years, I still wouldn't even come close to being even of what I'd taken. But so I did that for a good 10, 12 years. And at Christmas time, I'd go out and I'd go to the worst neighborhoods and I'd go with sacks like Santa Claus and just give everybody gifts and stuff, you know. And that was the only time anybody's ever seen me. Besides that Christmas stuff, nobody ever knew what I did. And I'll never tell anybody what I did. But I did the best that I could with what I had. And so, you know, practice sacrifice. Sacrifice recognition, sacrifice, praise and all of that stuff. And just do something kind. Okay, let's see. So the intent for this for the group is pretty obvious, right? That they want us to sacrifice what we do in order to keep the group and everything strong. So what does the relationship thing say? It says selfishness is the spiritual foundation of our way of life as marriage partners or friends, ever reminding us to place principles above personalities. And the principle is unselfishness. So the principle of unselfishness is what you want to practice in your relationship, right? What is the
Selflessness, not selfishness.
I was gonna say, unselfishness, yeah. Selfless is still another, right?
unselfish is what?
It's not selfless. Selfless, there's still a motive. Of some sort. But selfless, I don't know. It's just,
It's selfishness. Selfishness. Unselfishness. Principle unselfishness. Selfishness, selflessness is the spiritual foundation, right? And so the principle of that is unselfishness. So again, that's just what we're talking about here. So obviously, if I do something kind for my partner, she's gonna figure out it was me, right? But I can carry that into lots of areas of my life with all kinds of different people. You know, somebody's struggling, somebody's hurting, somebody's going through a difficult time. You know, an envelope with some money for them dropped off for them. They don't know who it's from or what. You know, a bag full of food for their house. You know, left for them. They don't know what. There's lots of ways we can be unselfish and selflessness. Practice that in our life, in all areas of our life. And so that's how you want to practice this at home. So again, don't talk, do. And
number one, do you have an immature need for attention? Yes. Yeah.
So, so the way that we sacrifice in this program is to do service for our fellow man, really, right? And the way we sacrifice at home or at work would be the same way. Do service for our fellow man. Anybody got any questions on any of this? Anybody got any questions on any of the traditions that we went over? I'm glad you guys stuck it out, and I hope you learned something about the traditions, or at the very least, learn that this is important stuff. It's the glue that keeps this fellowship together, and it's the glue that's kept it coming up on 88 years of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's a damn long time for a bunch of drunks to not fuck shit up. Right? There's no nice way to say that, because we really mess stuff up, don't we? Yeah, so
I miss being around New Yorkers, so.
all right. So anybody got any questions? Anybody need to talk about any of this? We still got time, but if not, we'll just finish. I'm done. Pleasure being of service to you. I'm out of here.
Thanks, Danny.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Danny.
See ya. If you ever need me, give me a buzz.
Will do.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.